thing when it comes to individual privacy and social networking and the internet in general. And because there are several civil rights involved when you talk about privacy. But to set the stage, I have to go back to this quite famous quotation from Lessing saying that code is law. And it has built-in values that direct the change it is creating in our society. And internet itself is a best example of those values. Where were the basic protocols defined? In the university campuses of California in the 60s and 70s, during the golden age of hippie movement, instead of freedom. And then when we go into this new social participative medias, then we are seeing that these values also are creating new social cultures. We talk about mobile tribes using SMS to communicate. We talk about pirate networks using peer-to-peer networks, Wikipedia, different kind of galleries, Facebooks, podcasting, social networking, blog writing, and so on and so on and so on. And what is important when it comes to the values of that environment is that they give people two freedoms. First, freedom to select and choose what they want to read. And secondly, freedom to create and publish whatever they want to create and publish. For example, I was visiting Iran recently, and Iranians are probably the most active blog writers in the world, even though the Iranian government is blocking most of the international blog services. But as one Iranian told me, the Chinese proxies are the best when you want to go around those blogs. So they have created a totally new culture of communication and freedom of expression, even under a government that is very keen to limit that freedom of expression. What makes this difficult for us politicians is that children, once again, are forerunners of this culture. The same has happened with each and every new media. Every time adults have understood the technology of that media, but they have not understood the culture of that media. And that has made grown-ups, politicians, scared and overreacting. I won't go into that because that would be, I would spend the whole evening doing that. But what we have forgotten is that now when we are creating a totally new society, we have forgotten to discuss what will be our civil rights and freedoms in that society. Do we need to redefine them, or do we need to strengthen them? Because now that we have not had this discussion, it's all too easy to chip these rights away, one bit there, and so finally you don't have any left. For example, in Finland, that you would consider quite a forerunner when it comes to civil rights, our National Information Society strategy until the year 2015 does not say a word, not a single word, about civil rights. When it comes to us politicians, the trouble is politicians usually are not quite computer literate. We are talking about Web 2.0 now. I would be very happy if I would see my fellow parliamentarians reach Web 1.0. And it's also a problem that you have to take the lens cap off. Thank you. And you have to. Another problem is that many politicians do not find these issues politically important. For example, in Finland, we were discussing the new data telecommunications security law. We only had 2 speeches in the plenum. Before that, we had been discussing 2 days about the Finnish national anthem. Which shapes the future more? Of course, there is also this legal tradition that is a problem, because this legislative process is way too slow. It takes years to make a new law in Finland and in any other democratic country. And so, as a result, A year ago, Finland got a new modem hijacking law that allows police to prevent modem hijacking crimes. How many of you have a modem anymore? What we would have needed was a botnet law that would have made it, given police tools to fight botnet racketeering. Maybe we get that when the last botnet is in the Museum of Technology. And this internet culture, when it happens in the virtual world, people do not, especially politicians, do not recognize it. The old media do not recognize it. So the whole Finnish teenage generation was using different kind of Web 2.0 tools before mainstream media and the Parliament of Finland even recognized what was going on. This Habbo Hotel and Irk-Gallery are Finnish networking services used by, one is used by children and one by teenagers. And another example, more than 100,000 Finnish people were playing poker in the internet before our politicians saw that, oh no, we are losing the monopoly of we have been having on gambling in Finland. But it's a suicide for politicians to make a hobby of 100,000 people illegal. So what was done? People say nothing. People are trying to forget the whole thing and hope that it goes away. Of course, this same, why we are talking privacy here is that these same tools that can empower us to express our opinions, to find more information, they can also be used to control our expression, to limit our freedom of expression. What I would like to raise up, not only privacy, but also some other digital civil rights, because we have not been discussing those thoroughly, and there are some that are quite surprising. First of all is, of course, this digital privacy. For example, in Sweden has a new law that gives their military intelligence right to read each and every email that passes through Swedish borders. The trouble is, almost all international email from Finland goes through Sweden. We are not too happy about this. Then is this, the other privacy is this freedom of expression. I go more into detail on that relationship later. But why are governments and authorities so scared of this freedom of expression in the digital realm? There are already presidents that have been ousted by a single text message, for example in the Philippines. But have you ever thought about domiciliary peace? What does that mean in digital world? That's digital privacy of your home we are talking about. Or digital identity. Identity theft is the most fastest growing crime in the world. And you know what? It's totally legal in Finland. If you misuse that identity, that's a crime. But stealing one's identity is totally legal in Finland because nobody thought that something so obvious and something so should become a problem. But when you talk about virtual services, your private identity is your most valuable possession. So once another quote from Benjamin Franklin, you probably know, you all know this by heart already. So to privacy. When we talk about privacy and information society, people usually talk about Big Brother, that some government is snooping what we are doing in the virtual world. But when this digital technology is penetrating our whole society, influencing each and every aspect of our lives, suddenly it's not a Big Brother. It's what a Finnish futurologist Mika Mannermaa has called some brother. Because in this what we call ubiquitous society, where every piece of equipment has intelligence, or at least can be identified. You know what this bottle is made of, you know where it's located, you know where it's come from, you probably know where it's going. And they are communicating. For example, Nokia has already brought to market a new handset that reports your location to your friends through internet. Scary? Of course, it also has this option that you can report a false location. For example, when we're talking about our spouses, you probably don't want your husband to know that you are not at work today but somewhere else. So you program this handset to report a false location. Or when you're, there is already, this system exists already in Finland, that the cash register, when you buy, for example, food, it reports what you buy to your doctor, telling that now he was buying already beer again. So how does this correspond with his diet? That has not been made legal yet. They have the blue blocks are ready, but they have not put them together because Finnish law does not allow that yet. But when you talk about this ubiquitous society, there everything and everybody can be identified and positioned. And those two technologies make that society totally transparent. You're actually living in an aquarium. An example was given to the Committee for the Future when we were visiting Japan. We were shown a system where kids were given RFID tags when they went to school, so the parents were able to track where they were going in the city, because around the city there were RFID readers. And those RFID readers were also installed with surveillance cameras. Surveillance cameras that the parents were able to operate from their homes to see who their child is with. Of course, the next person who will give in such an RFID tag is your husband, because you want to see who he is going out with. The trouble is here that authorities developing and installing these systems are naive. They don't understand that this is not no rocket science, that also criminals can use these very same technologies. They can read the contents of our RFID passports. The protection of the Finnish passport is still solid, but I don't know how long, because, for example, the passport of Germany, the passport of Holland, passports of many other countries have already been hacked, and the contents have been changed. For example, there was this one test when a person got to an aeroplane with the information of Elvis Presley. And that system had been told to politicians that this is foolproof. You cannot tamper with this passport. But when everybody can see what everybody is doing, the big question is this going to be the end of double standards in our lives? Or will this be the biggest moralistic era in human history, when every unmoral deed is revealed to everybody around you? That is something we should discuss. But when we go to privacy again, there's this basic definition that democracy requires privacy and freedom of expression. If you don't have those two, you won't have democracy. And that means you have the right to get information freely and without tracing, without fear. You have to be able to express your opinions without fear of retribution. That means anonymously. And we all know this discussion we have been having about anonymous discussions in the web, because this anonymity can also be used for slander, for all kinds of bad purposes. But if we make it impossible, then we lose something that's at the core of our democracy. That's are we want to pay that price? And we are sending tremendously conflicting signals to people. For example, in Finland there have been two discussions. In one discussion we say that children should not reveal their real names in the web. They should always, when they write something, they should write it anonymously to protect their privacy. And in another discussion we say that you should not write the web anonymously, because that way you can, for example, violate somebody's honor or something like that, and without being traced. But these are totally conflicting views. Why we are not able to put these two discussions together? Nobody has been able to tell me that. The trouble is that our laws concerning these issues, they come from the history, from this traditional hierarchical media where you had a printing press or radio broadcasting station that was easy to control. But now anybody can be a mass media. My web pages have more readers than many Finnish newspapers. And anybody can set up, with no expenses at all, a mass media. And for example, when we talk about these web discussions, you say that, okay, we should close down those web discussions where people are being insulted. Okay. How many minutes does it take to set up a new web discussion forum? Not too many. And the next one you set up abroad. And one thing that I have not been able to understand is why things get so difficult when you go to digital world. For example, take this Unabomber. He was sending his letter bombs for 18 years, killing 3, wounding many other people. And no one suggested that we should start collecting data about our mail traffic. That who is sending letters to whom. Why is it so easy then to collect information about our emails? Because it's impossible to send a letter bomb through email. Or even it's impossible to send anthrax through email. And still we say that if somebody would ask us to collect this information, it would be considered a grand violation of our privacy and grand violation of our integrity of our private communication. Why is email different than letter mail? Tell me. I don't know how to pronounce this domiciliary piece. This that my house, privacy of my home is inviolable. And we have been thinking that this is something that somebody comes inside our house and does without our permission, breaks this piece. But what if he comes through internet? What if he installs Snoopware or other kind of malware on my computer without my consent? Is that a violation of my domiciliary peace? In my opinion, it is. But for example, in Finland, there was a recent case when it went to court, decided that it's totally legal to harass somebody with text messages, because the law doesn't say anything about text messages. It says only something about phone calls. We are now writing a new law because that's just stupid. And then this identity theft thing. It's not even a crime in Finland, not in many other countries, and even already identity theft related crimes cause billions and billions worth of damage all around the world. And the trouble is that we are going to electrical identification. Some sort of electrical identification is going to be needed if we are going to use electrical services in the web. And we want to be certain that for example, our account data, our health data or other data is only available to us. There was a case in Finland when one person was using the wrong bank's identity codes on a wrong place, just by accident, and got in on somebody else's identity. The bank said that it's one in a million case that something like that happens. It's not so distant future when we are going to have millions of electrical identifications every day. Once in a million is not good enough. It's just like in aircraft industry. When we are having millions of aeroplanes flying, once in a million is not good enough because otherwise we would have accidents every day. And when we go to biometrics, then it gets really scary. Because if you have somebody's biometric data, you can pretend to be anybody. And it's very difficult to get a new fingerprint or a DNA. So it has to be kept safe. Okay, I trust our Finnish authorities that they won't release the information on this passport to anybody else. But do I trust, for example, each and every customs officer that reads this data to his database? Because criminals are going to pay big money for that data. So I think identity should become a new civil right, correspond to privacy, freedom of expression and so on. And finally, I'll end here. Sorry I've overstepped my time limit already, but this is something I always want to ask, because we think that our privacy is threatened by some outside force, some criminals, some identity theft crime ring or something, some hackers abroad. But who is actually the main reason behind violations of privacy? If you look, for example, to reports of our privacy ombudsman. So, your daughter or your son has a boyfriend or girlfriend, and you have an untraceable access to a database with his income data, health data, crime records, bank records. Would you take a look? Hands up if you would never violate his or her privacy like that. Hands up only if there was something suspicious with him. His pupils were dilated when I saw him last time. Of course, I'm a mother, I'm a father. You are politicians, you are not putting yourself up to this because you know that you might be asked afterwards what you voted. But when I ask this so that people raise hands, I usually get 1 or 2. When I ask them to vote so that they can do it anonymously, privately, they press 3 or 4. So the real threat to our information security, our trust on information systems, on our privacy, is not some outside force. It's each and every one of us. So when we make these systems, we have to make them so secure that they are secure even from ourselves. Thank you.